Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the End in Mind podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin, and we're here with Michelle today. Thanks so much for being here, Michelle.
I'm excited to be here. I love having these just open conversations where we can just see where the conversation takes us. So I'm excited to be here.
Perfect. Well, can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, your background? Give us a little bit of your story before we dive in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a business growth strategist, and I have been doing this full time now for over 8 years. But I started out in the operations, accounting, and business development space in New York. And then in 2014, my husband and I just uprooted our lives and we decided we were going to just go chase and live retirement. And so we quit our job, sold our house, sold most of our belongings, and moved to Florida. And I came down to Florida expecting to just get another job. I had a really impressive resume with a lot of skills, and I thought it won't be any problem. And learned very quickly that the job market here is vastly different than it is in the Northeast. And just really got very discouraged and decided, okay, this is not going to work. I've got to do something different. And so I started doing a lot of networking here locally, just hoping to find a new opportunity for a position. And that turned into a lot of in-person one-to-ones, which turned into a lot of pick my brain sessions. And finally, somebody offered and said, hey, I should pay you for your time because that was really a valuable hour. And I was like, really? And so that's when I started really looking into consulting and strategy and growth strategy. And so it's kind of like I would call myself a bit of an accidental entrepreneur, but I can't imagine not being an entrepreneur now and owning my own business. But yeah, that's basically how the consulting side of it started.
I love your story. I can resonate with that. It's kind of like the business finds us,
Hmm.
sometimes. And then everyone's like, let us hire you. And it's like, okay,
Yeah,
to get an LLC. That was my experience too. So I
yeah,
resonate with that a lot.
absolutely. And I think that builds the biggest and best businesses, right? When it was just your natural skills turning into something that people want.
Yeah, need, right? Especially
Hmm.
with what you provide. Could you tell us a little bit more about what you were specifically sharing with that client or potential client at the time, and what you help your clients with today?
Yeah, so back then I did a lot of focus on marketing strategy. I really leaned in and was really focused heavily on relationship marketing and how to utilize relationship marketing inside of a business to increase profit, to get new opportunities, new introductions, new sales, etc. And it was interesting. I think I was working with an engineer at the time, and he always reached out and built relationships with the project managers. And he felt like those were the people that, brought him more business and everything else. And I was like, hey, there's a whole staff on the back end that pays your bills. Like the project managers bring you the business, but the accountants are the ones that pay you. And if you don't butter the accountants up, trust me when I tell you, because I was that person, that if we have a choice between paying this person or this person, we're going to go with the one that we've built a better relationship with and actually sees and values us. Because for the most part, people on the back end of a business, they sometimes get overlooked versus like your front end salespeople and whatnot. And so he actually did that. And I can't remember if he sent brownies or cookies or something to the accounting staff. And I remember him texting me and saying, Michelle, I've never gotten paid in full in my life from this company. And I just got paid in full. Like, that's never happened. And so just really honing in on the power of building the relationships and understanding that there's so many people involved in a transaction and in a business transaction. So that was kind of where I started. And I still do a lot of heavy focus on relationship marketing, but more so on the full growth strategy. What is the strategy? Where are you at? What are you trying to do? And what are the steps that are going to take to get you there? And also really looking at a business from a holistic perspective and understanding what's already working. So rather than just continuing to try new things and throwing spaghetti at the wall and just chasing every new shiny object, it's really about diving deep into a business and understanding that the answers are all there. We just oftentimes don't look at it.
I love that you said the answers are like within the business and within us, maybe even
Hmm.
as the CEO and the leader of the corporation or company. Um,
Absolutely.
And I also love how much you mentioned about accountants in the back end of the business. My fiance actually works in financial software sales, and it's strictly for accountants. So it
Mm-hmm.
like really resonates with me. And
Yeah.
the conversations that we have. Quite literally, accountants are the backbone of the finances.
Mm-hmm. They are.
So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, people are so focused a lot of times on like, who's going to give me the sale? Who's going to give me the business? Who's going to do, but understanding that there's just so much more. There's so many people and learning to collaborate in a way and look and kind of looking outside the box for those people. And I recently was working with a client, same thing, and she was doing a lot of marketing all on social media, which I know is your jam, but doing a lot of social media. And then when we really dove into it, most of her business was coming through referrals, and it was coming from referrals of adjacent and, people in adjacent industries. And so she's really taken to going and really diving deeper in with those referral partners, and her business, and her leads have like, I think 5 times what they were, just because she's doing and focusing on the things that are already working in the relationships that are already built.
Such a good point. I think a lot of people come to this show, come to my business, and they think social media is going to solve all of their problems. And when I met you inside the Badass Women in Business, shout out Sarah, um,
Mm-hmm.
I loved that you mentioned that Instagram and social media is not in the forefront of your business because it's not how you generate leads. And I really respect that because if I didn't run a social media based company, a lot of my leads also come from referrals and other, relationship building outside of social media. And I've always seen Instagram as a place to warm those relationships
Mm-hmm.
when I'm not in the room. And it seems like that's really what you help your clients do too. So can you tell us how you help people identify where their cash is coming from and how to basically spend that time most efficiently?
Yeah, so I have a framework that I developed. It's called the Focus Visionary, and it's like an 8-step framework. And step one is called Know Your Facts. And it's a really deep dive into the facts in business in 5 key areas that I consider to be the ones where most opportunities, I call it hidden money, where the money is hiding the most. And that's in your offers, your clients, your revenue, your time, and your marketing. And so a lot of that they all kind of go together because the clients come from marketing, but looking at all of the things from a place of who are your best clients and what do they all have in common? What made them actually say yes to you? That's like one of my favorite ways to dive deeper with a client, is to say like, but why did they say yes to you? What was that final straw that broke the camel's back? Because there's so much knowledge in just that understanding that one key piece. Also, always asking yourself, where did they come from? Right? Anytime a new client comes to you, anytime a new referral, like, where did they come from? Was there 7 degrees of separation? Were they a direct contact that you had? Like, where did they come from? So you can figure out where you're spending your time. This is a big one. I had a client that was really put a lot of time and effort into Facebook, and realized this was back a couple of years ago when Facebook groups were still very, very, prevalent. And most of her contacts and her clients were coming from Facebook groups and referrals. So it's like, why don't you put a little less time into Instagram and a little more time into engaging in these groups where your people are hanging out? And so again, just looking at and 5 times, your profits just by going where the people are, going where people are already finding you. So looking at your time too, like understanding where's your time going, what offers convert the best, with what offers do you love to sell and promote, and then looking at like what offers actually generate the most profit, not just the most revenue. So that's kind of where I usually start, and it's a pretty in-depth assessment and people, worksheet that people go through, but there's so many answers in there. And then from there, you can build the strategy on top of it, because you're building a strategy that is rooted in the data and the information that your business is telling you, this is really working or this is not working. And so when you have that information, it's much easier to create a strategic plan for growth because you're not guessing.
Working with real data. I went to
Mm-hmm.
communication school, so we were constantly doing like data analysis on way people communicate, and I
Mm-hmm.
love the data side of marketing, so I really appreciate that as well. And I wrote down, which will probably be the title of our episode, why did they say yes to you? Like in particular, I love this thought-provoking question. Can you explain to the listeners where you find that with your clients, or maybe like some tangible examples of what maybe, like in my experience, my industry is so overcrowded, there's like
Mm-hmm.
people that are focused on going viral. I choose to be on more of the mental health side for my business owners and CEOs, like
Mm-hmm.
helping them stay detached from social. But I would love to know your perspective on that piece.
Yeah, so I'd love to ask that question of like, why did your clients say yes to you specifically? Because what I'm really trying to figure out inside of that question is what is it that makes you unique, right? Because, or what is it that made them say, you're the right person for me, right? There's a million other business strategists out there. There's a million other social media experts out there, right? And the answer to that question, a lot of times, most people don't have it. And so they have to go back and ask a couple of their really great clients of like, but why did you pick me? Like of all the things, why me? And so that is so telling in what people see in you that is unique and why people want to do business with you, and people can use that in their messaging. And when they can hone in on that, because it's so easy to talk over and over and over about all the generic things we do, right? Like even myself, like I help you create, grow and scale your businesses. And we look at profit and all these things like me and every other business strategist, right? But like, what is it about me? And when I ask that question to a lot of my clients, 90% of the time, I get the feedback that it's I come to you because I know you're going to give it to me straight. Like you're never going to sugarcoat it. You're never going to you're going to, and it might hurt and you're going to give me a little bit of a kick in the ass, but you're always going to wrap it in a hug and make sure that it's in my best interest, right? And so that little piece of just saying like, hey, do you need a little kick in the ass? Like, do you need somebody that's going to give it to you straight, or are you looking for somebody that's going to give you the fluffy yes? Right? Like that is powerful language that I can use because it's going to attract the person that goes, you know what, you're right. I do need a kick in the ass. I am sick of being told yes when really the answer is no. Like, and that's something that I find so incredibly powerful that people are missing as part of their strategy, because it's what makes you unique. It's what makes you the person people want to say yes to.
It really is that differentiating factor of where we internally, as the business owner or the marketer or the CEO position, are able to explain what exactly we offer our clients in a few words. And I love how you described yours. Like, I'm going to be the honest, truthful mirror that you probably don't have, but I'm still going to be there to catch you when you fall. Like, don't think you're in this alone.
Exactly.
Um, and I find that that's exactly what most people in our industry are looking for. For so long, we've thrown money at coaches or strategists that did just say yes, and we saw no growth, little to no growth. And that can be really frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing too, is being able to utilize that, because people have been burned in every industry, whether it's coaching, whether it doesn't matter. People have been burned in every industry. So just being able to bring out the things that are of importance to you is is really helpful. The other piece to asking somebody like why did you pick me, is really getting to the point of like, at what point does the pain or the struggle become deep enough or strong enough for them that they pull out their credit card, right? And so you're trying to find that turning point of when, because we all have things that we struggle with. We all have things that we wish we could do different, but we don't always put money towards them, right? Sometimes we DIY them for a long time. Like, what is it that finally made you go, you know what, I can't do this on my own anymore. I need to pay somebody to help me. And so also being able to figure out what that is of like, but why did you finally say yes? Then that really helps you to pinpoint the real struggle of where people are at right before they get that credit card out. And so that I find to be very helpful too. And 90% of the time, it's not anything that we think it is. It's usually, we've exacerbated all of these pain points and struggles, and we think, oh, they're going to come to me for this, and it's like, no, they need this. Like, I always think to myself, like, wow, I'm going to be able to dive into your numbers and really help you find this strategy and all these things, and we're going to create all these amazing strategies and get your offers dialed in. Most of the time it's like because I was flailing, or I needed focus, or I knew I was all over the place, and I just knew that there was more inside me and I had no idea. Like, I didn't even know what to expect. I just knew that, like, I couldn't keep doing it myself. And it's like, really? Of all the things that we could do that, but that's the thing, is like, that's it. It's not so much that they need more information. It's that they need to know how to utilize this information to make it work for them.
It's so good. I couldn't agree more. I have a lot of clients that are so focused on the tangibles of what they offer. I've also worked with clients where they've challenged me on providing them tangibles. And I'll say things like, every client is unique. There's no way to create like one blueprint tangible
Mhm.
that's going to be appropriate to give each client. It's just everyone is so unique. Um, and a lot of the good information that they get is what you mentioned, sometimes like one word that I've spewed out in a long lecture, on a
Mhm.
call. And it's like, that's what sticks. My fiance was actually at a sales conference and they were talking about like 1%. Like most people will only remember 1% of this entire podcast. I think it might have actually been like 10%. Same.
Yeah.
So I really love that point where it's not so much more information, it's just the efficiency or the actual articulation of the information that you're sharing with them. Like, does it resonate with your client?
Exactly, exactly. And really speaking to what exactly is getting them to make a decision, right? Because decision fatigue is real. And I think decision fatigue is plaguing so many of us, especially in the business space, right? Because there's just so many things that we have to make decisions on every single stinking day. And it's like, when somebody can just give you something and help you to make those decisions, a lot of times that's what people are paying for, right? They're paying for the ability to not have to make the decisions. Somebody to tell them, this is what we should do based on where you're trying to go, what I'm seeing, what you like to do, right? Like, so it's a very tailored plan. And that makes such a big difference too, that like sometimes it's just as simple as just tell me what to do.
I'm definitely that coachy. Like I want to be told what to do. like you said, it's so much happening on a daily basis. Like not even when you get to the personal life, right? That's just in the business of
Right.
questions that are asked on a daily basis, especially from my amazing, loving team. Shout out them. But being that guidance all the time, it's like we need people in our circle to guide
Mhm.
us, you know?
Yeah.
How does it keep going if not?
Right, exactly. And it's amazing to me sometimes the small decisions that can just hold people up so much, right? And so I think that's the other thing that I really, to anybody listening, that looking at a business strategy or a growth strategy, is that it's not about the big decisions, right? Growth strategy and creating sustainability in your business is a series of small decisions. It's a series of small actions that build upon one another. And I think too many people overcomplicate it. They overanalyze it. They think they have to be doing all of the things all of the time. And in reality, there are a very few things in everybody's business that move the needle forward. But the things that move the needle forward in my business are very different than the things that move the needle forward in your business. And so being able to just find what those things are is what creates a growth strategy. And it doesn't need to be any more complicated than that.
Beautiful. I'm like so excited for all of our listeners to get in touch with you. And I love how you said decisions. Like I'm always focused on in our show and even our solo episodes, like choices. You know, we have choices in life. We have a choice every day to get up and continue working on this business. But specifically, what you mentioned, understanding what choices are going to have the most impact. If you need clarity, call Michelle because I know she'll be able to help you all. Can you tell us how to get in touch with you? Any other offers that you haven't already mentioned and ways that you can help our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm always, my calendar is always open for anybody that wants to jump on and have a coffee chat or a clarity call for free. I'll make sure the link is in the show notes for you guys and that you have that. But I mean that when I say that, like, please book a time on my calendar. I am an open book and I'm here, I believe in the power of just connecting. So I think that's first and foremost, the most important. If you want a little bit deeper dive into me and who I am and how I share information, I have my own podcast called The Real Truth About Business. And if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the framework, it's michelledenio.com, michelledenioconsulting.com. And then it's the Work With Me page. It's the only service I have on there. But it's the Focus Visionary Accelerator. And, essentially you can find me on all the platforms, but I hang out the most on LinkedIn.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Michelle. This was so great. I definitely learned something, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
See you soon.
Bye.